Hello, hello. How's it going, all of you beautiful people around the world? My name is Ryan, aka, say it with me, Blackbeard TCG. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day, and if not, hopefully I can make it a little bit better. Now, look, I'm not gonna front. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. You guys know I do everything in one take, you feel me? But I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've already recorded this video, and it was 23 minutes long, done all in one take. But I was like, nobody's gonna sit through a 20+ minute long Magellan deck profile video. So, and I realized I didn't post a full deck list on the screen until like 3 minutes in. I'm like, I watch so much YouTube, nobody's watching this shit. Here it is. Here's a deck list for anybody that just wants to yoink, play around on the sim, make some changes. Boom, there it is. I'm gonna bless you guys all up. There you go. And now I'm gonna try to keep this video under 15 minutes for the rest of y'all and explain why Magellan. Now, this is the first video in a series of videos where I'm going to talk about some off-meta decks that can perform. You know, are you going to come in first place in the next Treasure Cup or online regional or offline regional? I don't know, maybe, but odds are probably not. You know, odds are it's probably going to be a Law player or a Zoro player or a Whitebeard player. And that's completely fine, right? Like, those decks are just very overtuned in this format. The decks are just very strong. I've already made a video on the tier list. We're not going to harp on it too much, but those three decks in any order, everybody has their own opinion. They're all very strong. For me, I would probably say it's Zoro Whitebeard Law, or maybe Zoro Law Whitebeard. I don't know. Maybe it just depends on the day. Maybe it depends on if my knees crack when I wake up one morning. Maybe my thoughts on the tier list would change. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about off-meta builds, and Magellan being one of them. Now, why would you want to play Magellan, my friends? Because Magellan is actually pretty decent into Whitebeard. If you're in an environment where there's going to be a ton of Whitebeards going on, then I think Magellan would be able to perform decently well. Now, the crazy thing is that Magellan is a deck that was actually able to perform overseas as well. There were a couple of decks that, if you check One Piece top decks, there was a couple decks that topped. It didn't take any flagship events, so no big events that have like 100 to 300 people. More so on the local scene, be it between 16 to 64 people, which is still great, right? Because I know some of you guys watching probably never won 16 to 64 man locals before, right? So, you know, think about that, right? Like, you go to your locals or you go to an event that has 16 to 64 people and you come first place with Magellan, not too shabby, right? And again, this is going up against Whitebeard, and this was also during, I know some of the matchups, it was during even the Boatbeard era. So keep that in mind. Now, does this have the greatest matchup against the entire field? No, which is why it's not a top deck. You know, in my opinion, it struggles a lot with Zoro, which again, you're going to see a lot of Zoro. It can win because, quite frankly, not all the Zoro players are good Zoro players. Let's just put it out there like that, right? A lot of people still think Zoro's just unga boonga, but when you go up against a skilled Zoro player, you kind of get your teeth punched in. But if you go up against the Zoro players that don't really know what they're doing, then yeah, you can easily beat them with this Magellan build. Now, this build's interesting. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to talk about other cards that you can run. I also want to talk about a card that's really interesting that will make this deck even more fun, potentially with even more support, as I believe purple will be coming back into the scene in OP05. But, you know, there might be other purple leaders, as we've already seen. There's a bunch that are being released because purple is probably the weakest color. I do think Magellan will be a beneficiary of that as well. But there are some tools that you can utilize right now in order for you to have fun and perform. And more importantly than all, it is very, very cheap. So if you want to pick this build up, if you guys play with it on the sim or whatever and you like it, you can build this deck for pennies on the dollar. Okay, it's very cheap. So, with that being said, let's break it down. So, why Magellan? Again, we talked about it with Whitebeard. It's good because you get the free 1,000 pump, right? Like, that's obvious. That's nice. You can easily swing with 6K. Beautiful. But the beauty is in 5-cost Magellan. Now, for those of you that don't know what 5-cost Magellan does, don't worry about it. I got you. I know a lot of people, when you don't see a lot of cards often, you don't know what it does. Last weekend, there was a tournament. Shout out to everybody I seen at the tournament that watches my videos. I brought Odin to it. I was playing Odin. I went 2-2. It was 4 rounds. I went 2-2. My matchups were round 1, I went up against Law and lost. Round 2, I went up against Ace and won. Round 3, I went up against Zoro and lost. And I was almost there. It was 0 life to 0 life, but hey, that's how it goes. I could have played it better, but I lost. At the end of the day, I took the L. So I lost to Zoro in game 3, round 3. Round 4, I went up against Law and I won. So I finished 2-2 with Odin. And a lot of people were like, what does he do? I think almost everybody I faced didn't remember what Odin did. So that's one of the benefits of playing off-meta decks. And I will have my Odin list in one of these videos. But I want to talk about Magellan first because I really like Magellan. And I would show you guys the in real life build, but I don't have the Jailer Beast from OPO3 because I didn't buy the singles for it, so I couldn't show you the real life build. But that's enough rambling. Let's go ahead and show you guys what I wanted to talk about. For those of you that don't remember what Magellan does is you send back 1 Dawn to your Dawn deck. So right off the bat, that will proc your Magellan Leader Effects ability, pumping him up to 6,000. And then your opponent returns 1 of their Dawns. Why is this good? Because it throws off the Whitebeard tempo, right? Even whether it's Zoro or whether it's Whitebeard himself, it throws off their tempo a little bit. It will affect the 9-beard Whitebeard a lot more than it would the Zoro, because Zoro will just be like, all right, cool, let me go ahead and play Easel, let me go ahead and play Buggy, let me go ahead and play Dedan, let me go ahead and play Nami, or whatever searches they're running with all those little bodies. Yeah, obviously there's that, but when you are going up against Whitebeard, where they really want to drop that 9-cost Whitebeard because, you know, they're taking their life every turn, all of a sudden you're building up your boards with multiple Magellans, and then all of a sudden they're not able to drop that. It feels really damn good. And a lot of the times they don't want to KO your Magellan, because if he gets KO'd, then your opponent returns 2 of their Dawn back to their Dawn deck. So a lot of the times you can just stick on the field and just poke at your opponent, and at 6,000 power, it's the perfect number to just poke at Whitebeard and start getting cards out of his hand, right? So yeah, Magellan's just really, really nice. That's the heart and soul of this deck, which is basically the reason why you want to run Magellan, okay? Outside of that, you can basically build it however you want. I think that there's still a lot of staples, right? You want to have Sadie, because Sadie's obviously a 2k counter, Impel Down as well. You're going to play the Impel Down stage card. Now, some people opt to not play the stage card. For me, I feel like that's a mistake. I feel like Impel Down stage card is very valuable because you want to dig for Magellan, okay? You want to see Magellan. This adds to the consistency. Impel Down can search for Hannibal. Hannibal can search for Magellan, right? Think about it that way. Like, you have double searchers. Impel Down can also just search Magellan straight up. So it just gives you more opportunities to get the Magellan in your hand and be able to play it as soon as possible. Even playing it late in the game is still very valuable as well, okay? Like, you're removing 2 Dawn from your opponent. That's 2,000 less power that they will have if they KO it, or 1,000 less power that they'll have on their next turn. It can throw off their plays like the 9-cost Whitebeard, as we already discussed. We won't harp on it anymore. From there, you can really play a various amount of options. You could play a more Jailer Beast focus build, where I'll talk more about these Jailer Beasts in a bit. You can play the Animal Kingdom Pirates focus, and if that's the case, if you are playing a lot more Animal Kingdoms, then in that case, for me, I personally wouldn't play the Impel Down stage, because then obviously it's going to whiff, right? So that's something that I wouldn't play. And if that's the case, you can play things like 7-cost King, which in my opinion, I'm not a big fan of. I don't really like 7-cost King myself. Although, again, if you're in a local scene where there are a lot more Zoro and Law, then it definitely can perform and put in dividends. It'll pay dividends. But I'm not a fan of it, so I don't run it. You could play 9-cost Kaido as well. I should probably be showing these on the screen. That's what a professional YouTuber would do, Ryan. What are you doing? But I do this all in one take. All right, guys? You guys get the raw, uncut, unedited version of all this stuff, right? So I don't even know where it is, but you guys can run Rush Kaido as well. The 9-cost Rush Kaido, here he is. That's an option. You can run 10-cost New Kaido. You can run Douglas Bullet from Film. You can run the Film Uta, whatever you want to call her. You can run that. So there's many different things that you can play. Just take this as a template. For me, I like to play a more beat down version. I like to have Sphinx, 4-cost, 6,000 power. Again, really good against Zoro. Sorry, not Zoro, really good against Whitebeard. And I like X-Drake, right? 3,000 power, 3 costs. I really like this. Now, in terms of the Jailer Beast, I like Minotaur, double attack, 5,000 power. Zebra, it has Banish, 5,000 power. If both of them get KO'd, you'll be able to add Arrested Dawn to your Dawn area, which feels very, very nice. So you're getting some value off it either way. And I like Zebra a lot because Banish is just psychological damage, right? Like, you know, you could pump up your Zebra and swing with it, or even if you just swing with it at 5, but like, say you pump it up to 7k and you swing with it, like the mental damage of like, okay, I have to discard 2 cards from my hand because I don't want the top card of my life to get banished. Like, that feels so good because it's like, okay, sure, like, I don't mind you dropping 2 cards instead of losing your life. Like, I'm completely fine with that because on the next turn, they're probably going to KO the Zebra because, again, banish, and then you get a free Dawn. You know, like, it feels damn good. So there's that. And then Minotaur obviously has double attack. Now, Minotaur does not feel as sweet, especially against Zoro, because, like, yeah, I mean, I've gone up against Zoro while I'll swing with the Minotaur, and they're just like, ah, hey, thanks, homie. Thanks for the 2 cards so I can punch your mouth in. You know what I mean? And because, you know, Zoro, you don't want to give him too many cards, too many resources early, because then he just pops off, man, and makes your life difficult. But having Sphinx, having X-Drakes to really beat down, have your Jailer Beasts that allow you to consistently put out threat, swing at your opponent, make them scared to kill it so that way you don't plus off of it. It's really nice. And then the cards that will send on back, your King, your Queen, your Magellan, those are the cards that you're going to use to pump up your Magellan leader and hopefully start swinging that way as well. And then, of course, you have Blast Breath and Hell's Judgment, 2 very, very strong events that will keep you alive. We try to minimize the cards that don't really have counter in this deck, because that's one of the things with purple is when they don't have counter, like, you just kind of lose. So, yeah, I try to minimize the amount of cards that don't have counter. So change the build to your liking. If you want more power and give up some more defense, you can go ahead and do that. Let's talk about some quick cards potentially you can run, and we'll talk about a card in the future that I'm excited for this deck. Some cards that I choose not to run. Higurashi, Domino, some of these other chump blockers. I don't like running them because in this format, there's so many cards that can just pop them so easily, right? We're talking about Sea Quakes. We're talking about Markles. We're talking about Air Door Kaku shenanigans. We're talking, like, I think like every color has a way to just really just get rid of these chump blockers, which is fine for the most part, because like if they have it and they use a resource on this, it's fine. But it's just like, again, it's 2 Dawn, and sometimes I just feel like, damn, that 2 Dawn, I'd rather use it for something else, right? And sometimes I feel like if I lost just because I'd never had a Higurashi, I was probably going to lose anyways. At least that's how like my mindset goes. And so I'd rather have these slots to play some of these other cards. I don't feel like dropping any of these other cards would add more value, right? Like dropping X-Drakes to play a playset of Higurashi is not going to allow me to win more against Whitebeard, right? Maybe it'll be better against Zoro, right? So I have more blockers. But in that sense, then you could argue, okay, why don't you play the Jailer Beast? Because at least that way it's an attacker, it's also a blocker if needed, right? I'd rather play that over Higurashi, which again, why would I play the Higurashi? Why would I play the Dominoes? That's just my opinion, personally. But you guys, again, play it how you will. So, again, Koala you can run. I did some testing. I'm not a big fan of it, but it's still fine. If you want to run Koala, you can. I really like these 2. If I was to run Koala, I'd probably drop the Minotaur and then just run the Koalas instead. I think I would always run Zebra. But then when it comes to the Rhinoceros, I think Rhinoceros is really cool. I really like it. It just doesn't have counter. But it's 3 cost 5,000 power, which is really nice, right? With an ability, right? So it's on the level of the X-Drake, but it has an ability, which is why it doesn't have counter. So I like this, but again, I want to minimize the amount of cards that don't have counter. So maybe I would probably drop 2 Minotaur and 1 Minotaur, 1 Zebra, and splash it 2 Rhinoceros. Just because this is nice to play this on turn 2, and then on turn 3 drop your Magellan. It feels really good. It feels really damn good. And yeah, this is good because you get value off it, right? So that's another card. Yeah, I already talked about Douglas Bullet and all those other big bodies. Polly you could potentially run. Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of things that you could potentially do with this deck that makes it competitive in some sense and makes it really, really fun to play. Like, honestly, guys, Magellan is not that bad, and I'm sure some of you guys in the comment section below, if you've played this, you guys will know that Magellan, it's a blast to play, and it's honestly a pretty decent deck. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Magellan. This is one of my favorite decks in this format, for sure. That's off meta. Let me know what you guys think. Have you guys played around with Magellan? Do you guys think I'm absolutely cooked and it can't beat anybody? Or do you think that it definitely could take some games off of the top decks? Let me know in the comment section below. But before that, I want to show you guys a card that I'm super excited about. Let me just pull it up here. All right, there we go. This is Eustace Captain Kidd, 7 cost that will be coming in the new starter deck when OPO 5 comes out. It's purple, 7 cost, 8,000 power, so absolutely nice stat line. And the reason why I like this is because I just think of the curve, right? It works perfectly where you could play your Magellan, and then right after that on your next turn, turn 4, you could play your Eustace Captain Kidd, right? I feel like that just feels so powerful. So what does he do? It's just a quick, easy, dirty effect, right? So on play, I believe it's on play and when he's attacking, you can send back 1 Dawn to give your leader 1,000 power. Why is that nice? Well, your Magellan gets 2,000 power when you do this, right? So you get the 1,000 power when you play him. So the turn that you play your Eustace Captain Kidd, boom, your Magellan 7K for free, right? Well, not for free, but because you're playing 7 and you're sending back 1, but you guys get what I'm saying there. And then also when you attack with him the next turn, then also your Magellan's going to be able to be 7,000. So I really like that. I think that this is going to be really nice. Again, playing Magellan turn 3, playing this turn 4, having your leader be 7K for 1 Dawn. I feel like that's always really nice. And it's 8,000 power, 7 cost. Like I like that. It's not the most amazing stat line in the world, but I mean it has an ability, right? And the card art is absolutely amazing. So you know, cards like this, as more purple cards come out, I feel like Magellan will just be able to get more and more support. I apologize. I wanted this video to be less than 50 minutes. I talk a lot, but shout outs to everybody that watches. Hey, it's still shorter than the 23 or 25 minutes than it was before. I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. Try out the Magellan build. Let me know what you guys think. Love you all. Peace.